blow this up.
Look Alive Bomb Squad, we are back for one more episode in the co-host collective series here in season 3 of Let's Blow This Up. I'm your host, Jason Sircone, and to wind down this great series, we are doing it in style with Simona Costantini joining us once again. Hi, Simona.
Hi, Jason. Thanks for having me.
It's been a hell of a ride this season, hasn't it?
It absolutely has, and I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I'm so grateful to have been on every episode that I've been on, and all the other ones you've had as well. The content is so good, so I hope everyone is like binging these like crazy and taking all the notes.
I hope so too, and you've been a tremendous value add to this season and even past seasons of Let's Blow This Up, so it's great to have you in the community and a part of this family. And again, going to wind this down for this season, at least this 1/3 of all of our series that we're running this season in style. This is going to be fun because we decided to take a different approach to this. So as I speak now, the number that you saw in the title about how many crazy off-the-wall unique ideas we came up with, we came into this with just a few. We wanted to use this environment to try to come up with some ideas just on the fly. So the number is not established yet. By the end of this show, we will. But as a listener/viewer, you're knowing how many crazy off-the-wall, just, I want to say, I'll call them unique ideas. I feel like in podcasting, we often get sucked into that trap of being very reliant on social media. Email is, of course, is a big component. We should be focusing on SEO and things like that for discoverability. But there are some people doing some really cool stuff to get the word out there about their podcast. And we wanted to take this half-hour deep dive to talk about some of those things because you and the Bomb Squad may not have considered some of these ideas and you may want to put them into practice. So, Simona, I'm going to start with you. What is one of the coolest, craziest off-the-wall ideas that you've either done for your own show or one of your client show, or you've just seen somebody do in the podcast space?
So I am not like that crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm crazy in other ways, but like when it comes to promotion, I have a marketing background. So a lot of my stuff is like my own stuff is, I would say, is pretty basic. But what I would say is I have like a whole idea for a merch line behind my Happiness Happens podcast. And I created these shirts years ago, and they had like different phrases on them and stuff like that. So, you know, I would say one of the cool ways that you could do it is through merch, but not just putting just your podcast name on it, but like using the real estate on the clothing for something else. So if you're taking a t-shirt, for example, and maybe you're putting a slogan on it, or you're putting something, you know, on the back of it, or maybe you have a QR code or something. I'm going to follow this thread for like 2 seconds. So I have this tattoo. I don't know if you can see it. It's on my wrist, and it's a lightning bolt, which is a tattoo that I got before I created or rebranded my agency. And now my agency has a lightning bolt in it as well. So there's a tie into that. But I had someone tell me once, if you create merch, you should create merch with a lightning bolt on the wrist for every single piece of clothing that you have. And then it becomes like an identifier. So I thought about that for my Happiness Happens show, but then paired with like on the back of the shirt, I have this, okay, sorry. I feel like I'm like all over the place because I have so many ideas, but I have this.
That was the idea here.
I have this sweater that I absolutely love. And on the back, it says, I hope you know that the world is better because you're in it. And I wear that sweater all the time. So if I were to recreate merch for my Happiness Happens podcast, I would choose slogans like that. And I would put those in prominent places so that people can see them and read them and then resonate with them, and then have a tie to my show through that way. I like to be intentional with what I do. So I'm not over like, can I say balls to the walls on here? I'm not balls to the walls with the
yeah, we're pretty okay with the swearing at this point. That's a PG-13 swear, so you are completely fine.
It felt really bad. No, I'm just kidding.
So
that's what I would say to start.
That's really good. And I will say, sticking to the merchandise, go back in the archives, Bomb Squad. I had a full hour conversation with Michael Bickett And he is a master with utilizing merchandise for your podcast. And as we discussed, it's not just about having your logo on things. It's about doing something that establishes your brand and it invokes emotion from your audience. And it makes them look at something and say, I immediately identify that object or that shirt or that hat or whatever is on the merch with that podcast. So you're ultimately always thinking about that show, and with merchandise you can represent that brand. You're out there turning people into billboards. If you've got a tie with the lightning bolt, I think that's really cool,
right?
And let's stick to merch and tattoos, because our friend Jay Franzi gave us an idea for this show about having a temporary tattoo giveaway on your podcast, that you have listeners get their hands on the temporary tattoos, then take their pictures with those temporary tattoos. From there, they're entered to win a t-shirt. If they share their picture wearing the tattoo, they're entered to win a t-shirt. So you're not only getting that initial plug for your show through them wearing the tattoo, and if they do it for longer than just the picture, people might say, what's that all about? So now you got the word of mouth going, but then they win the t-shirt. Now they wear the t-shirt, you take a picture of that. So that's a little bit, like, there's more steps to that, but it's incredibly unique, and you don't see a lot of people going to that extent to get the word spread about their podcast.
I like that. I love the idea of temporary tattoos. Like, I think that they're so fun. There's a company, it's called Inkbox, and I wonder if someone could do like a collab with Inkbox. I'm sure you can, because they've done all kinds of collabs with different people. Like, there's a poet, Atticus. All these different people have created like their own line through Inkbox, and so I think it'd be kind of cool if you created like your own temporary tattoo line, but the tattoos stay on for like 6, 7, 8 weeks. Like, they're not like you put it on and then rub it off with rubbing alcohol. Yeah. Like, it stays like on you. So like, that could be something that's really cool. Like, if you have some fun, different designs, and like, but I think the thing is though, Jason, like, you can go and create anything that you want, but it's like, is it going to be stuff that people like? Like, I see people create shirts all the time, and I'm like, I would never wear that. Like, and it's just, and then they're like, well, why doesn't my merch sell? I'm like, well, is the design something that someone would wear? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you have to be thinking about those things. The temporary tattoo thing for me, that's right up my alley, because I am 45 years old and have 0 tattoos. That is too much of a commitment for me.
I have 3, and they're very specific.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to tattoos, they should mean something. That's just my opinion. I don't judge anybody that does tattoos just for the hell of it. If that's what you want to do, that's great. I just know for me, I always quote the great Sebastian Maniscalco and say, you don't put a bumper sticker on a Ferrari. Ooh, that's just me.
I like that. I like that.
But but
let me hide my bumper stickers. No, I'm just kidding.
but I've always said, I mean, I'm not against it at all. I always felt that if I was going to get a tattoo, it would mean something. So like, I look at the little, what I've turned the O into in Bombtrack Media and in Let's Blow This Up, kind of like your lightning bolt on your wrist. That now has meaning to me.
Yeah.
That's my brand, and that's identifiable. So something like that, I would not be against getting a permanent tattoo. Maybe I should start with the temporary just to see how I like it. And then I'll go full blown.
You should create it. Yeah. And then I can rock one too. I'll wear one, and then we'll come back and we'll meet here.
Okay.
I don't know. I have another thought for you.
Yes, please.
Another fun idea. What about getting or asking your listeners to record an intro for you for your show?
That's an idea. Get the audience involved.
Right?
Yeah. I think any way that you can incorporate your listeners into the party, it's only going to lead to more fun for them.
Yeah.
It's going to lead to more buy-in, more engagement. They're going to know that they feel valued as a listener. You know, we've talked often about those people that have 50 to 100 listeners that are loyal to every single episode, but we're over here looking past them for the next 100,000 that haven't shown up yet. But in reality, our attention should be on those 50 to 100 people because they came to the party first. Show them a good time. I think that's a great idea. It goes right along with an idea that Mark Ronick gave us, another member of the co-host collective. And I love that the fact that he actually went to this extent. Oftentimes you see in these Facebook communities and social media communities, people are asking for help. They're asking for advice. They want to make sure that they're launching their show the right way, or they're producing the show as they move forward in a positive fashion. So they're often leaning into their peers and asking for advice. Mark took this a step further. He saw someone that was looking to launch a podcast in one of the communities. I believe it was his. I believe it was his empowered podcasting community.
I think so, yeah.
A great community to be a part of on Facebook. If you're not there, you should be. And he saw her request for advice, and he actually did a full hour episode on his show, the Podcasting Morning Chat, addressing her concerns. So instead of just adding to the thread, he took that question, turned it into a whole podcast episode, and then shared it with her and said, we addressed your concerns on my show. Here it is. And not only did this person get her concerns addressed, she now has a whole show that's all about her, and her podcast isn't even live yet. So she, of course, shared that with her community, and that made his podcast touch a whole new audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was an incredibly brilliant way to take his show to a new level.
I completely agree with you. And the other thing too with this show that's really good is that it's the podcasting morning chat, right? And so they do it live every single morning. So you have multiple people collaborating. So you don't actually just get the advice or the expertise of one person. There's like 10 or 15 people that are weighing in on your stuff and on your strategy there, which I think is absolutely genius. You literally just got 10 strategists telling you what to do or how to do it, or, you know, all the things to consider in all different niche areas. So then that begs the question, Jason, when we think about the idea of community, people always say, oh, tap into new communities and stuff like that. But maybe thinking outside of the box for one of our listeners that, you know, for one of our podcasters that's listening right now, thinking outside of the box of the communities that you're already in, and how do you find new ones that align with your interests, that align with what you're creating, and, you know, expanding into somewhere completely new where people don't know you. That's not very heard of. A lot of the stuff we do with marketing is push marketing. How much of it is pull?
Yeah,
right?
That's a great point. I think a lot of this, to me, you don't want to be one of those spam bots that just goes into communities and starts firing off episodes of your podcast, because it's not a good look.
No.
But there are ways that you can start conversations with people that could then lead them to your podcast. Because if you start a conversation in a thread, I would say more times than not, it doesn't happen like this, but it really should. It gets moved to a DM where you can now continue that conversation. And then it's probably a little bit more acceptable, we'll say, for you to say, you know what? I actually had a whole podcast episode about this very subject. That's why I chimed in the first place. Here's the link to it if you want to check it out. Let me know what you think. Now, they may go listen, they may not, but you may find from that you get a new listener. Maybe you find somebody that could be a guest someday. Maybe they felt so indoctrinated and so excited about what you had to say. Now they want you on their show. It could open up a lot of doors. But I think where we run into the issues is that it's a time-consuming process to be on those communities all day, every day, constantly looking for conversations to be a part of. But
100%.
From an organic standpoint, that's really what's going to drive your success forward, because it's so hard to gain traction by just sharing your episode links. You've got to be involved in the communities and have those conversations. I think that could lead to what you're suggesting, Simona.
I agree with you. And as we're talking, I'm thinking of so many different ways for different types of podcasts. So, you know, there's more podcasts than just talking podcasts like what we're doing right now, right? Like there's more than just the conversational style. You have your narrative style, you have your storytelling style, you have all kinds. So one of the ideas that came to mind was, let's say your podcast is like a fiction podcast, or like a true crime thriller, something fantasy related, and so on and so on. Can you take a scene of the podcast, a scene of the story, turn that into a graphic, and turn that graphic into like a t-shirt or even a puzzle?
Yeah, there's something there for sure.
Right? Because if you think about, like, I'm even going like the gaming route, D&D, like that kind of stuff. That's kind of your target audience. Like if your target audience like likes games and likes stuff like that, create for them what they will purchase and what they will, you know, make them feel a part of something bigger. Now, on the flip side, if you're like a spiritual type of podcast, for example, or, you know, what have you, maybe you can get, you know, some kind of like spiritual reader to read the aura of your show. I don't know, this might be a bit of a stretch, but maybe they can create like a custom crystal kit, or, you know, something to relate back, like thinking outside of the box. But I feel like all the ideas that I'm giving are have a cost to them. So what are your thoughts on A, everything I just said, and then B, on some ways that you maybe don't have to spend a lot of money?
That was the whole purpose of this episode, was to think a little or even a lot outside of the box, because as I said at the top, we are usually pretty limited to what we do to promote and grow our shows.
Yeah.
But there are so many things that we could be doing, but often our minds just aren't going to that level of, this is something that sounds so crazy, we're not even thinking about it. But sometimes that's what stands out. And I think something to point out, I know Michael Bickett talked about this when we did our live stream earlier in the season. Don't get, what's the word I'm looking for? Don't get dejected if you put a t-shirt out and someone says, that's not for me. Okay, that's not for them. And you may not get the sales you were hoping, but it doesn't mean that you should just stifle your creativity and stop trying to think of cool ideas to promote your show. Because we know in this world, it's not even about merch. It's just about standing out. It's about grabbing attention. And if there's something like all these ideas you're suggesting, Crystal Kid or whatever it is, it's going to grab attention if it's different. If it's just another social media post, it sort of gets lost in the shuffle. So there are so many things like, this was a good one. I want to make sure, I've already lost count of how many ideas that we've had. So I'm now going to say the number. Well, I'm not even going to be able to say it at the end because we're going to have so many here by the time we're done, but I will say we'll have the correct number in the title of the show. Eric Johnson, the founder of Lightning Pod, who joined me for a live stream this season, he had a great idea. And I've heard of this before. I've never actually done it or been a part of it, but I always thought it's a really cool idea. He had suggested to a client to have a one-off live stream to show their first episode in a live environment and then have a live Q&A with those who came to the party.
Yeah.
So build it like a launch party to where people come and they enjoy the episode with you. They can comment during, and then once the show concludes, you can do Q&A and go deeper into the subject of the show.
Yep.
I think that's a phenomenal way
to
launch a podcast.
I agree with you. And we were actually just talking about this. So in addition to the agency that I run, I also co-founded a podcast management software. It's called Northflow. And we were talking about, we launched a podcast 2 months ago, and that show's called Behind the Workflow. And we're talking right now about doing an additional like little series, if you will, not even a series, but it's going to be called Behind the Workflow Live. And what that is let us show you how to build out your workflow. Let us show you how to build out a template. Let us show you how to, manage the production of your show. Like, let us show you, and then come and join us, and we'll do it together. And then you can ask questions. So it's that idea of bringing people along for the ride, because there's so much noise out there. There's so much content out there. There's so much stuff out there. You have to find ways to cut through the noise. And how you do that is by getting right in front of your audience in a way that, people want to be seen. People want to be heard, right? They want to feel like they're part of something bigger than. So if you can create that and give space for that, like even a Discord community to go along with your show. Maybe you have, monthly hangouts with all of your community members. Yeah, that's more for like, I guess, like community-based podcasts. But if you were a business owner, what would you say about that? Like if your show is more business specific, do these ideas fit?
And it really depends on how your content is driven. I think when I've already made some changes for what are in my mind for what I'm going to do with season 4. And I can't remember, you and I might have talked about this off mic, but I'm going to talk in more detail about where the show is going to go in the absolute final episode. Actually, I'm sorry, the final solo episode. It won't be the last one that goes live. The live stream replay will go live. Man, keeping track of all this is a bitch. So anyway.
You should probably move your production schedule into Northflow.
You're probably not wrong about that. But what I'm driving at here is that for that type of thing, with what I'm going to do, I could see some value in that, because the whole objective of Let's Blow This Up from the start has been about education. It's been about providing a resource to my listeners, to my clients, to my potential clients, to anybody that's in the space. And I've had conversations with people that won't become clients, but it's great to know they're picking up tips and and utilizing strategies. And then they're telling me, hey, I heard this on your show and I tried it. It was great. That's awesome. And and that to me is how you build the community. But if I were to then take that into hey, once a month, we're going to do a closed Q&A, or we're going to do a monthly webinar type of structure, I think there's value in that because as an education-based show that's building a podcast for business owners, taking it to the next level and having that more one-on-one interactive experience is going to just elevate everything that I'm doing. So utilizing an idea like that, I think, is very good for someone like me. It all comes down to how that content is designed to hit the audience and if it would work for that additional community to play a role in all of that.
I really like that.
Right?
And also, just like to highlight, it actually is more challenging than people think to hear from your audience. So kudos to you that you have people reaching out and telling you that they're taking the things that you're sharing and implementing them, because we don't always get to hear from the people that are listening, and that is huge for, you know, the content that you're creating, what you're putting out there, and then conversion overall. So I love that.
Yeah, and I will shout out one of the more recent interactions I had, a gentleman who has a podcast called, I believe it's called What Police See. And if I'm butchering that, I apologize. And if to make up for it, I will share the link to his Instagram on the show notes or in the show notes, because I believe that's what it's called. But
it's perfect.
He had reached out to me and said he'd been listening to some shows and he loved the solo idea, but he didn't think that anybody would want to listen to him do solo. He'd been flirting with the idea. And I told him why it was valuable. And I said, why don't you poll your audience and see what they say? You know, and then you'll have at least peace of mind, if nothing else. Within the first 15 minutes of him putting a poll on Instagram, he had 8 people say, do solo. That would be great.
Wow.
And it goes to what the audience is. The audience comes to a podcast and they fall in love with the guest, or I'm sorry, with the host. That's who they hear the most.
Yeah.
So if we keep coming back for more, of course they're going to want to hear more from you and only you.
Exactly. I've done some very unofficial research on Threads, and according to Threads, most people prefer having solo episodes, and most people have said and replied back to different things that I've shared in different ways that they would never listen to a podcast if it was only a guest episode podcast, because they are there for the host and they want to be there for the host. And if they see it's a guest episode, they skip it. Isn't that crazy?
There you go.
Anyway, sorry, we got a little off topic there, but
well, I think it speaks to the overall point, because again, if you're thinking about launching a podcast, you might think the only way to do it is with a guest format.
Right.
And we are both here to tell you, and Simona, you're bringing statistics to back this up. You could.
I don't know how credible they are, though, Jason.
Well, I think to some degree, you could think about it, though. You could do a 100% solo podcast and not miss a beat. I don't think, I think a lot of times we fall into this trap to think that there is only one way. And we see some of the bigger shows, and those shows, they are featuring guests like your Joe Rogans, your Mel Robbins, your Jordan Harbinger, the people that are bringing guests on. That's their prerogative. There's no reason why you can't say, you know what, just to get this rolling, I'm going to do solo. I'm just going to see how things project with just my voice. By doing that, there's no dividing of the attention. There's no people in the room saying, well, who am I supposed to follow the most here, the host or the guest?
Yeah.
It's all you. And it's crazy to think that might be an off-the-wall idea. But I would say in the interim, in that beginning stage of I want to do a podcast, not a lot of people are thinking solo episodes first. And maybe they should be.
I love that. I agree with you. When I first launched As It Relates to Podcasting, which is my industry show, I launched that as mini guest co-host series, and they were great. They did well and people listened and all that. And then I did a few solo episodes because I was in between guests, and those episodes performed almost double what my guests were. And I was like, well, that's strange. So then I changed the whole format from guest episodes to solos, and the downloads increase every single week, every single episode, month over month. Like, I'm just like, whoa, this is crazy. And I never would have thought, I'm like, me? Like, someone wants to listen to me talk for 20 minutes? I guess so.
Well, you think about it, you're on stage a lot now. You've been doing a lot more live presentations, and people are coming to those and hearing what you have to say. I would have to say you're probably gaining new listeners just from them experiencing you in that environment, which is you sharing your expertise. Now I can do that on demand.
Very, very true.
Very cool thing to be able to do.
I agree with you. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, we're running short on time here, so we want to make sure we fire out a few more ideas that we got from our co-host collective and some other people. I will say one idea that I've done in the past that was fun back in the days of my beer podcasting. I had made stickers that I was able to take to venues and then if they had a wall or something where they put up allowed you to put up stickers, I could put up a sticker and then take a picture, incorporate the venue, talk
I
about
love
what they're
that.
doing well. Like that was a very nice tie-in for me, and it was easy to get stickers to do that. And it was fun to do that on social media versus just your typical, hey, here's episode 25.
Yep. So can I add to this? Because
You
I
sure
actually
can.
grabbed something off my desk. This is something that my team member, Robin, gifted me when we started working together, which is so thoughtful. Like she joined my team and then sent me a gift. I was like, why? I was like, that's so nice. It was so lovely. And anyways, one of the things that was in that package was this sticker, and I'll just show you here. And it says, if you can't read it, if you're not watching a video, it says manifest that shit. But underneath it, it says Jess Paper Co. And so that's the person who created it. But the sticker is something that I personally, like, I think this is beautiful. I would put this on my laptop case, for example. I would put this on the back of my phone. So if you think about, even along the line of what you're saying, some stickers, right? But not just the podcast as the main thing, but like, my Happiness Happens podcast, for example, a tagline I say is happiness happens when you're least expecting it. I would print that as a sticker and then have the branding underneath it of Happiness Happens podcast. So then people know where to go and find it. And I don't know if this is possible, but can you turn wording into a QR code, like a mini QR code somewhere in there that people can't even see? And then you can link to the show. I don't know.
There's something there. I like
starting
the
a new business. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, we'll talk after the show. We see Mark Ronick. He's been on this series for a few episodes this season, and he's always wearing a T-shirt it's from the shirts that he's created. Sometimes they're podcasts, like he has podcasts and different themes.
Yeah.
But I think he has one with his show on it, I believe.
He has the podcasting morning chat one, and also he created one for all of his co-hosts, which I have not been in the room to help him do that in quite a while, but he gifted me one of them, which was super, super nice. And then even just like, if you think about, you wear that shirt out to the grocery store, or you wear that shirt to the gym, or you wear that shirt, when you're going out, or like wherever you're going, it's literal free advertising, but it's because it's something that's relatable to you. So that's where, like, if you're going to create something, it's got to be relatable to the person,
But where I was going to take that is because on top of that element, which is also important, what if we all did like a swap with one another?
Oh, I like that.
So how podcast networks will often plug other shows on their network.
Yeah.
Here, if I'm on this show and I have a T-shirt that says "as it relates to podcasting" or "happiness happens," and you have a "let's blow this up" T-shirt when you go on podcasts.
Oh, I love
it
that.
Could be a conversation starter where somebody says, "What's that?" "Oh, that's a podcast that my friend does. It's all about blah 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 blah." So there's something there too, to where your show, your shirt, your merch. I mean, you could put on a coffee mug too. I was given that idea on a past episode by Alexander Watkins. Have your coffee mug with the logo, always have it out when you're drinking during the show. That logo pops up on screen on whatever show you go on.
Love that.
Another way to spread the word.
I love that. That's so cool.
Like I said, like I knew we were going to run out of time on this because there's just so many cool ideas.
Plus, it's you and I. We can talk for 17 hours straight and not get bored.
Yeah, we've proven that many times. What are your thoughts? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, did you catch the part when I drop tea all over myself when I drink it? Did you
I missed that.
You'll see it when you're going back through.
This is the whole spilling the tea on this episode. Keeping it going strong. How about
literally spilling the tea?
Yeah. How about mobile podcast studios? This was brought up by Anna Xavier and Mark Ronick. I love it too. I had that idea about an RV. Turn an RV into a mobile podcast studio. How cool would that be? But then Mark said he had a buddy that did that. Anna was doing something in a car. This girl that she recorded
she did a podcast episode in a car.
Yeah. So like if comedians in cars getting coffee and karaoke, carpool karaoke have proven anything, it's that people will watch you do things in a mobile vehicle. Now, I'm not saying that the podcast studio in an RV is moving while you're recording. It could be. But I just think having that whole setup to where you could go somewhere and say, don't worry about equipment, don't worry about a studio, we got you covered. And here we come, and now you can come into our studio and everything is turnkey. I think that now that's a little bit way off the wall, because for most starting podcasters, they think, yeah, we're just going to buy an RV and turn it into a studio. We got hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's no problem. But I'm telling you, I think for a business idea, there might be something there.
I think that it's genius. My partner talks about that often, about getting a smaller RV and then turning it into a set and then traveling around the country and being able to go and interview people. I feel like, if you think about in-person podcasting and then flying in guests, like it makes it so crazy expensive. But then if you just take your RV to any event that you go to and you plan in advance and you know who's going to be there, or what cities you're going to be in when you're going to be there, then you can kind of organize your guests that way, which I think could be really cool. Look at me going into the logistics. I'm like, how do we make it happen? Like,
so many things we need to vet out now that we've had this conversation today.
We're gonna need a part 2.
I think so. We'll come back and do this again in future seasons. But this is
fun.
Again, I lost count. I will, as I edit, I will make a tally. Listeners have clicked play and hopefully gotten to this point. You already know, based on the title, how many ideas we were going to share. And it's like we just scratched the surface. So much more that we could have dove into, but we'll do that in a future episode.
I love that. Or we can do it on my podcast. Maybe we do part 2 on my podcast.
I'm in. Just
talk
say
about
the
a
word.
little podcast swap, huh?
I love it. That's an idea we didn't talk about either. Also,
add it to the list.
right away, like that whole guest swap scenario. That's always good. What about? I've done this. Let's wrap up with this one. I don't know if you've ever done this. I did it a couple times, and it really didn't lead to much. But I had a guest appearance on somebody's show. And then they were on my show as well. We each ran both interviews back to back on each other's shows. I don't know if that was a beneficial thing or not.
It's hard to track,
right? Like it's definitely off the wall. And it was this person's suggestion. I said, I'm willing to try it. I still think that there is value in saying, let's just plug our individual episodes so we get them over to our network.
Yeah.
But
I've done this. I haven't done this myself. I haven't done that myself, but I did it for a client where we ran one of her like industry, like competitors or whatever, ran their competitor, whatever you want to call it, ran their show on her feed. And then we took her show and ran it on the other person's feed, but they just did one episode and they created a specific intro for each one saying like, hey, this is I'm so-and-so, this is so-and-so's podcast. I'm going to run this episode today. You know, check out their show. The links are below. And I think that's really cool. But I feel like you have to have like somewhat similar audiences in order for that to be effective. Otherwise, I don't think the episode is going to land. I
agree. And that's what we did too. It was just an individualized intro to say, this is what you're going to experience here today. And
I like that.
Go forth and enjoy.
I like that a lot.
Well, Simona, this has been, as I said, one hell of a ride this season. I want to thank you for all of the incredible contributions you made to Let's Blow This Up in season 3, including today's episode. This was a lot of fun.
This was so much fun. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here anytime. And maybe we should do part 2 on as it relates to podcasting. What do you think?
Send me the calendar invite. I'll be there.
I don't have one. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, great. Just send me a text and I can answer those too. All right, Bomb Squad. So this concludes season 3's co-host collective series. I'd love to hear your feedback on this series. What did you think? We had a lot of different voices on each episode. Half-hour deep dives on various subjects in the podcasting space. Shoot me a message or leave a review. However you want to communicate what you thought of this series, we're always open to that feedback. So, for Simona Costantini, my name is Jason Sircone. This has been Let's Blow This Up. Until our paths cross again, stay explosive.